All right, let's do this. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Barr, and we are going to dive into a topic that, quite frankly, I've been avoiding a little bit. And the topic is the new weight loss drug, the medication that's out there. We're just going to call it a drug. That's exactly what it is. This Ozempic, the Wegovy, I think there's some other names for it, semaglutides. We're going to dive into that. I think it's a little bit overdue that I should be talking about this. The reason I've been avoiding it is for this reason. So listen, if you've been challenged with weight, and there's two kind of categories out there. If you've all your life struggled with weight loss, I've been on the other side of watching people, through hard work and through proper metabolic processes, sometimes work years at getting their body to an ideal weight. And I recognize the pleasure and the confidence and the satisfaction in life that brings them. So this is part of the reason I've been avoiding this, because I've watched some people drop weight, massive amounts of weight in short periods of months, 15 pounds, 30 pounds, 40, 50, 60 pounds over short periods of time. And I know that to some degree that brings a mass amount of pleasure, but I also would not be doing my job as a healthcare provider, as someone who's trying to lead people to not just temporary results, but long-term longevity with their health, and making sure that I'm the one that helps steer them in a way that they're going to be safe along the way, that we're not sacrificing the future for today. So that's why this comes about. So I never want to be the one who kind of is the raining on the parade. But listen, the way that this is being positioned and the way that people are using this medication, this drug, problems are on the horizons. They really are. Locally right now, I was just told that we're out of the medication because it's become so popular. And folks, listen, this is a type 2 diabetes medication, the Ozempic and I think it's Wegovy and the semaglutide, all of those ones, no matter which one it is, they were originally designed for type 2 diabetes to be using at lower doses, and very effective for those individuals who have been using them and need them. The use for weight loss is an off-label usage. So all of a sudden we discovered that they can use them for weight loss, and they've tripled the dose. And now all of a sudden we got some challenges here. So I'm going to discuss those. We'll do this in this short period of time. We're going to talk about how it works. I won't dive into the science, but help you understand what's taking place metabolically. So if you're considering this or you're on it now, you understand what you're facing here. Talk about the side effects. Those are really important. Hopefully you're not experiencing them, not the serious ones at least. Inevitably, you will experience some of them. That's why they're drugs, because they have side effects. And then also, if you are on them, it's certainly not a endorsement for you to go on them. I would say for the most part, I don't think that this is a great idea for people for weight loss. Because there's always going to be a rebound effect. But if you are going to be on, what are the things that would be really important for us to observe and kind of put into the strategy if you're going to use them? And I think no doubt about it, we have to ask the question, what happens when I come off? Remember, and we'll dive into this in just a little bit, this drug is designed, in theory, that you stand for life. And as you hear what I'm about to tell you about how it works, that is not a good plan. All right. And again, but make no mistake, it is not my job or any in my intention here to tell anyone to take this drug or not. I'm not trying to act as your medical provider in that sense. We're just giving a little bit of awareness of what's taking place when we use this medication, what's taking place with the human body. All right. So let's first dive in and just talk about how is this medication, how is this drug working in the body? How has it become effective for people that are losing weight? And is it helping people lose weight? So the answer is, so far, what I've seen, the answer is yes. I have watched some people all of a sudden drop 15 pounds. And I say all of a sudden, it might be a couple months, 6 months, 5 months, 7 months, some 40 and 50 pounds, massive weight loss. And the moment I see that, whoa, what's taking place here? And is the body still healthy after this? And you're going to see in just a moment a lot of side effects that go with it here. So here's fundamentally how it works. It works with this little hormone called the GLP-1 receptor, and it increases the receptor site, which then basically means it sends a signal to the brain. Hey, listen, we have plenty of food in the stomach. Let's not have an appetite. So the stomach sends a message to the brain. We have food here. Let's decrease the appetite. So literally for these people that are taking this drug, it's suppressing their appetite. The mechanism by which that's working, it is slowing down the emptying of the stomach. So yes, the food sits in the stomach longer. You have this satiated feel. You feel full longer. Food's literally not metabolizing. So keep that in the back of your mind. It's not being assimilated, and those nutrients are not being absorbed up into the body because it's sitting in the stomach. So this food sits in the stomach longer, sending a message up to the brain saying, you don't need any food. There's plenty of it right here. Already, I think many people can say, well, that seems kind of weird. What does that mean to me from a nutritional perspective? What is this going to do to my health of my body? And those are the questions that aren't being asked, and they're not being answered in the proper fashion. So this is because here's why. There are no long-term studies on humans with this. There are long-term studies in type 2 diabetes patients, but those are a much different dosing. So there's no long-term studies here. So again, and we've seen this in the past, being the guinea pig is not so cool, right? So we want to be a little bit mindful about what does this mean in the long haul? And what I'm telling you right away is the moment we start to suppress appetite artificially, which is exactly what this is doing, it is telling the gut-brain connection it's being interfered. It's giving it a false sense here. So now all of a sudden, and the best analogy I can give this is that it puts you on a starvation diet that's easy to abide by. So you're going to start to starve your body of nutrients, of caloric intake, of vitamins and proteins and minerals and carbohydrates and fats. And it's going to be effortless because the signaling is there, and it's going to say, I'm not even hungry. So I've already seen in clinic, and this is the bummer part, and this is why I'm doing this podcast today, because I've seen this in clinic already. I watched a young girl come into my office, a young girl, she's probably 50, 51 years old, and I haven't seen her in a little bit, and she probably has lost 45, 50 pounds. I don't even know if she had that much to lose, but she did. She's absolutely exhausted, and she's vomiting on a regular basis. I didn't know any of this. I didn't know she was on the medication, but just prior to me here seeing her husband told me that she was on it, and he's concerned, and yet there's nothing he can do to get her off it. So he doesn't want to be the bearer of bad news. He wanted me to be the bearer of bad news. So we had a conversation, a young woman, and I said, well, are you putting any food in your body? She's like, I can't eat. Every time I eat, I want to vomit. And here's why that happens, folks. It is creating this gastroparesis effect for some people in the stomach. And the longer you're on the medication, it seems this is where it shows up more, meaning that it creates a semi-paralysis to the stomach. Yes, that's exactly what I said. The stomach isn't able to metabolize food. It's paralyzing the stomach to some degree. So where it's not moving food through. So the food sits there. And the stomach is smart enough to go, hey, listen, this is not a holding tank. This is a digesting tank. This is supposed to be, you bring food in, your body releases the proper enzymes, hydrochloric acid, whatever it may be, the enzymes the body needs to break it down, and then it's got to move it on. It is not designed food to stay in our stomach. So if it stays there any prolonged time, the body gets a little bit nauseous and says, hey, kick this food out. So there's a lot of people that do experience this constant vomiting. Now, what we don't know is if all of a sudden you come off the drug, have we damaged the stomach? Have we interfered with that message in between the gut-brain connection so much that this is irreversible? And we're already seeing people with these challenges, and we're seeing people with a lot of this nausea and whatnot that takes place at the stomach. And again, how and why is that happening? Because we're fooling the body. We're tricking it to think that it doesn't need food because we're slowing down the movement of food through the stomach, and the food is not supposed to hang out in the stomach. So that's number one. And then if the food is hanging out in the stomach, those nutrients are not coming into the body. That happens lower in the digestive tract. That happens partially in the small intestine, partially in the large intestine, where the food is being limited because it's hanging out in the stomach. So let's kind of move along this category here. So does it work to get some of the weight off? And again, the answer is yes. Is there a side effect? There absolutely is. So one of the biggest challenges that I see right now, or that concerns me going down this road, is this. Typically, when we lose weight, and I've been helping people lose weight literally for years, thousands and thousands of people. And I always say this, that it means you're going to have to change your ways. And I don't want to go that deep into that conversation today, even though we're going to touch on a little bit. We're going to have to change our ways. We're going to have to change something. It means either lifestyle and or detox pathways. Usually it means both, but either way, let's just focus on what's taking place here. As people are on this drug, The challenge here is this: as a result of not eating as much, typically you're not going to put the food. What I see already is that people are leaning away from their proteins. And I tell you something, there is nothing worse in the world that they could be doing right now if you're on these medications and leaning away from your proteins. Let me explain why. Typically in weight loss, when someone cuts weight, let's say you cut 10 pounds over, a couple months, typically in that weight loss, about 75% of it would be in fat loss and about 20% of it will be in lean body mass. And what they're discovering now through, and we didn't necessarily measure this out in our office, but we're seeing what the science is and the research is bringing back to us now, is that, and this makes sense because this is why we see people's bodies really start to change. What we're seeing is that instead of 25% lean muscle mass, it's 66, 70% losing lean muscle mass, meaning this: you're not just losing fat, you're losing a small percentage of fat. You're primarily losing muscle mass, which means muscles, tendons, ligaments, and possibly even bone density. This is not okay, folks. This is a challenge. And again, it's partially the reason I'm here today. You've heard some people talk about like Ozempic face and stuff like that, where the collagen, because they lose weight fast, the collagen in their skin starts to droop. So remember, collagen essentially, it's a source of a protein that your body uses to build good connective tissue. And as a result of the deficit, the caloric deficit, because you're just not eating as much, combined with not assimilating and uptake and bringing the nutrients into the body, combined with not eating as many proteins, we have ourselves a metabolic mess on its way. So again, are people losing weight? They are. What kind of weight are they losing? Is it fat loss? Less fat loss through this drug than typical weight loss. In fact, they're losing more muscle loss. And a little shout out to everyone here that potentially, whether you or a friend of yours are in the category, especially if you're a woman and you are leaning into your 50s, maybe even getting to menopause. You've heard it here on the Health Made Simple show before. The number one emphasis is for you to build muscle. Your muscle is your number one metabolic source. That is what's going to dictate your metabolism more than anything else in the human body. And once you hit menopause, a little sidetrack here, but once you hit menopause and your estrogens start to go down, now we have issues with feeding bone and gaining muscle. And if you're on this medication and you're into menopause, and why am I specifically talking about this category? Because I see a lot of women who have gained weight and they're in menopause using this medication, and it might be the worst thing for them, especially leading into the future. So again, I'm trying not to be the bearer of bad news, but I want to be honest with everyone here. And some of the messages that I'm getting feedback about some of the doctors that are prescribing this medication, no big deal, honey. You just go on this, you lose a little weight, you'll feel better, it'll be good for your joints and whatnot. There is a sacrifice that we pay when we kind of take a shortcut. And I foresee that this is going to be a big issue going down the road if we are losing muscle mass and we are losing connective tissue strength or losing collagen because we're not feeding it. So you're not consuming as much as you once did. Now let's talk about the simple. What happens when you come off of this? The research clearly shows that there's a rebound effect because you haven't changed the lifestyle. You haven't changed any of the signaling. The signaling, in theory, hopefully nothing's been altered. Signaling goes right back to, hey, I'm hungry, I need to eat. And when you go to eat, your old patterns are going to come right back, and they might even rebound higher because you're now nutrient deficient. Again, this type of drug puts you in a very comfortable, and I say that gently, a very comfortable starvation diet. And everyone knows that a starvation diet is not a long-term plan for health, longevity, vitality, et cetera. So when coming off this medication, and we should always ask, hey, doc, are there any long-term side effects here? Have there any human studies on this? So we didn't do that last 2-3 years about the other medications, the other drugs that we were all recommended to take. We didn't ask any human studies on this because there were none. So we just said, just take it anyways. And then we saw the side effects from that. And I know that was a little rant right there, but nonetheless, it's true. So now we're looking at this medication that is sweeping around the nation. And unfortunately, it's creating a shortage of some of these medications for the people who really need it. Some of the people that really need it for life-saving reasons, like the type 2 diabetes and whatnot. But for the people out there that you're trying to lose 5 and 10 and 15 and 20, 25, 30 pounds, not a significant amount of weight in the big picture, and you're using this drug and this medication. And I said 5 pounds. And you said, well, doc, no one would use it for 5 pounds. Yes, they would. I've already had people come in. So weight loss is a tricky thing. I've been working with people with weight loss for decades, and it's well beyond what shows up on the scale. In fact, it's much deeper for almost all of us. And I don't know there's many people that don't have an ideal weight in their mind, a single number. And that ideal weight represents something much greater than feeling good. It represents an emotional position. It kind of represents I'm better if I'm at this number, but it not necessarily correlates to better health. So there's so many emotions that wrap together when we start talking about weight loss. So have I seen people that have gone on this medication trying to lose 4 and 5 pounds? I have. It's very accessible. It's very easy for people to get. I'm not going to explain how to get it, but you can do it. Very, very easy. And unfortunately, people are doing it. So, and again, the drug was designed for people with type 2 diabetes, not for casual weight loss, and especially when we're not changing habits that go along with it. So again, slow stomach emptying signals the brain saying you don't need any more food. We know right then in that message there, then how am I getting my nutrients to my body? And again, the way that we recognize how the weight is being lost, it's not through just fat loss. In fact, it's more through the muscle and the lean body mass, which means that percentage-wise, you're actually becoming fatter. Even though the weight's dropping, your body fat percentage is probably going up. And we know moving into the future that we want a higher muscle mass than we do a fat mass in order to be healthy, strong human beings moving forward. So, yeah, so there's all of that. All right, so let's talk. So I'm gonna keep this tight here. So let's talk about in the event that you are on it, and what are some of the things that you need to be privy to, or that would be smart for you to move forward with. So we'll keep it really simple here. When it comes to your diet, quite frankly, you should be better with your diet than most likely you ever have been in your entire life. You need to be very, very sound when it comes to picking your nutrients so you can maximize the nutrients that are coming into your body, because you're going to have less. And again, the challenge is as you lose weight, and you lose weight via muscle mass, the number one metabolic component of your body, of your metabolism, is your muscles. When you come off this medication, you're going to have to be eating less calories, but you're not. You're going to go right back to your old habits. And that's what we see pretty consistently here. But if you're on this medication, and there's 2 components to this that I think that would be most beneficial for you to make sure that you're really paying attention to. And unfortunately, I really don't see there's an emphasis right now with the doctors. I think it's kind of like a casual one quick sentence to say, oh yeah, make sure you're eating good and get some exercise. I don't think there's any emphasis or importance to this conversation of it meaning this. And these are the 2 things that I would make suggestions for. One, be absolutely certain that your diet is better than it's ever been in your life, that you are taking in higher density nutrients. And what are dense nutrients? Your proteins, especially your animal proteins. Quite frankly, your red meats, those are the best. I would encourage you. I personally am putting people on a digestive enzyme so they become good digesters, because that food is just sitting around. Most likely we're going to then see things like, we're already seeing it, the nausea that comes with it. We're starting to change the pH. I mean, literally your acidity levels and the alkalinity levels, they're getting confused. Your body says, well, I released the acid to break down your food, but you're still here. Now what do I do? It might release more acid. It might deplete your levels of hydrochloric acid. It's kind of hard for us to say right now, but a lot of times that's why we're seeing this cyclic, this kind of increased amount of vomiting in some patients, because the moment they eat, their stomach is so out of balance, they're seeing vomiting taking place. So one, I would encourage you to more nutrient dense foods. This is going to be very, very important, and specifically proteins. Second is this, a weight training program. You're losing muscle mass. Now you have to work twice as hard to make sure that you maintain your muscle mass. So I'd encourage significant amounts of weight training at least 3 times a week, where you are telling your body, we need nutrients, we need to break down and repair so you can maintain your muscle mass. And then also start to have a psychological, emotional, an addressing of what happens when I come off this medication. It's not going to be as easy. It is going to bring back potentially some of the old patterns. We recognize right now, and I don't think anyone's trying to hide this fact, that when you come off of it, the weight is going to come back over. Usually it's the same time that it came off that it comes back. So are you prepared for that? Has the medication given you an opportunity to change your lifestyle enough that maybe when you come off the medication, your lifestyle is in a position that you now will be able to sustain your changes? And that certainly is the hope and prayer for everyone that's on it. I don't see that right now. And because it is hard to make those lifestyle changes. Yet I do also kind of trust, believe, and have the faith that humans, we're badasses, we're strong. So in the event you're on the medication, your diet, and maybe you need to get with your functional health practitioner that recognizing high density foods, which ones to take, how to help you make sure you're taking in, literally, because you're not going to be eating much food. You have to take in the absolute best food. And what do we see when you lose the weight and you're not eating? We see energy go down, which means that you're going to lean toward carbohydrates and sugar. So listen, this rabbit hole goes deep. So with all that being said, do I think that this is a good idea, this medication? This is my personal opinion. I don't think there's a shortcut. I think that it's probably fantastic the way that it was used for decades, or at least a decade, in helping some people with type 2 diabetes stay safe and not necessarily die, right, from the complications of having obesity. And even that was a much different dose. Now that we're using it in casual, hey, let's rip off some weight on our body in a short period of time by basically going into a starvation diet, and that's what that really is, I think that's very dangerous. I think metabolically, we're setting ourselves up for challenges down the road. And again, a little, just shout out to all my women that might be in menopause. You do not have muscle. You do not have muscle to lose. In fact, it is you need to be gaining muscle, not losing muscle. So in the event that any of you are going to use this medication, then I'm going to encourage you strongly to make sure that you are on the best diet you've ever been on in your life. And you can do this. Get with someone that knows what they're doing. That's easy breezy. And second, make sure that you do some weight training every single week, and that'll give you the best opportunity to move forward here. All right, folks. All right, good. I feel good. Because I tackled something I didn't want to tackle. Because I know it sounds, sometimes it could almost rain on what seems to be the parade of the answer to everything. But we know that's not. Listen, everyone that's on it recognizes that there's no shortcuts. But we're all vulnerable for that opportunities. Oh, I can just do this and this will be so much better. But I think we know deep down that there's always going to be some type of side effect. I didn't even tap into the conversations of what's taking place with the liver, what's taking place with all the other medications that are people on. That is a whole nother conversation. And I think time's going to tell more with those things. So with that being said, keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out, keep spreading the love. And especially in this topic here, hopefully this is it's not too biased in either direction, but it's honest. And I think that's what we need right now. It's just some honesty with what's taking place with this medication, with this drug, that there's going to be some side effects. And again, if people say, do I think it works? I think it's a word that we have to dance around a little bit. What does work mean? Right? Does it take off weight people? Yeah. Is there a side effect? Yes. So I think it works. We need to have that conversation on both sides of it. And do I think that there's probably some better methods of utilizing it? I do. And I think that's where you got to get with your practitioner. And listen, if your practitioner is just sharing with you, oh, just go on this medication, and they're not talking about these other things, get a different practitioner. Listen, we're in a time and age right now. There's information so readily available to us, and you are allowed to pick practitioners that can help you navigate not only your current state, but your future state better and better as we go. All right, folks, keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out, keep spreading love. If you enjoyed this episode, share it out. This might be a topic that some other people need to hear. And I don't know if it's always a fun one, but if there's people on the fence and they're thinking, should I use this medication? If they heard what I just said there, possibility of vomiting, possibility of interfering with their metabolic system down the road, staying on a drug for the rest of your life, the vomiting, the paralysis that happens in the stomach, nutrient deficiencies, muscle loss, increasing fat percentage in the body. That might make them think twice before they get on this drug. All right, keep doing the thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. If you have an opportunity, we'd love for a great rating on wherever you listen to us here. That being said, we look forward to having you at the next episode of the Health Made Simple Show. Y'all have an awesome day.